Hi.
Hello.
So where are we?
We're currently in Pappalardo Labs, and that's a main lab, I guess, for the mechanical engineering department. People spend a lot of time here, either through 2009 or 2007. We're on the left-hand side of the lab where all the machining is like kind of happens. We have the lathe, the mills, and whatnot. And there is also another side of the lab where people, it's mostly like working space, so students spend a lot of time sort of working on their projects, whether that is their robot in 2007 or the product that they design in 2009.
Cool. And you've also done tons of MISTIs.
Yeah.
Which countries have you gone to?
I've done MISTI Denmark summer of 2022, and I went to South Africa for GTL in IAP 2023, and then I've also done MISTI Barcelona last IAP in 2025.
And what were some of the funniest language fails that you've encountered?
I think the first one that comes to mind is so in South Africa, I guess there is a clicking sound that people from the southern part of the country does. And I was with multiple friends then, and we were all trying to make the clicking sound, but it just didn't work for us. At least for me, I always had this like lag. So let's say, for example, I'm saying Hector, you would have to try to say like like Hector, and then the sound would come out, but then people in South Africa can actually like say it in sort of like in a instantaneous manner, but like mine always had a lag, so like people would be laughing. But I'm still working on my clicking sound, so hopefully I get it someday.
And were there any cultural similarities with you and the people you've met that surprised you?
I think in South Africa, more specifically, I was very impressed by how, I guess, I'm originally from Haiti, and I think South Africans and Haitians sort of share this kind of creative ability to make culture out of anything. In my country, they call them tap, which is basically taxis that carry a lot of people. In South Africa, I think they are called trams or tram or something like that. And one of the big cultural pieces, if you ever go to Haiti, is that you would get on one of these taps, you would sit with like 50 other people that you have no idea who they are. And then everybody would talk to you, as in like they would enter your conversation, they would, as in, you know, they would sort of like talk over a conversation and whatnot. And that's the thing that a lot of people do in South Africa as well, which I think was very, very surprising because I thought it was a Haitian thing that we like to just talk with strangers. But I felt very amazed when I was in Johannesburg, and then I was in one of these tap, and people just started talking as if they knew me. So I really like that.
I love that. I wish I could travel too. And what was some of the coolest project you've worked on?
I think the coolest project I've worked on is probably during my last GTL. I went to Barcelona. I was in a high school helping them establish a maker community. So they had just bought lots of tools, sort of similar to here, and they wanted to get the makerspace going so that students would be interested in learning in the space, but interested in also upkeeping the space. So my task was to sort of come and establish that community, and the way that I did that was to come up with a project, like a line following robot project, which is a class that I've taken here and that happens in Pappalardo. And my goal was to have them use every tool in the space to build the line following robot so that they can see like the life cycle of the space. And then also at the end, I drafted formal protocols for every single tool that was in the space, so that the knowledge that I shared during this GTL wasn't just like a one-off thing, and that students could then use those protocols to train other students and really sort of like build a community from that point onward. I think it was my coolest project because it's sort of like I sort of paid forward a lot of the things that I've taken here in mechanical engineering. I set foot in my first makerspace at MIT, and I think helping like another school get like a makerspace and kind of opening the door for other students to be empowered was very, very cool to me.
That sounds amazing, sharing knowledge abroad. And how did your experiences with all the MISTI change the way you think about the specific field you're in?
So I'm interested in wind energy modeling, and the word, or I guess phrase wind energy modeling isn't a phrase I was aware of until I went to Denmark in 2022. So I worked at DTU Wind Energy, and they are they have some of the most prolific labs in the entire world, like labs, I guess, that do wind energy research. And that internship was instrumental to my trajectory because before I had an interest in wind turbines, but I knew that I never wanted to build turbines or like be on the field, sort of like kind of like constructing aerodynamic structures. But when I went there and worked with some of the people there, I discovered the realms of computational wind energy modeling, where a lot of the software that simulates wind farm, that model how they work, kind of like came from these people in Denmark. And since then, I haven't done anything different. Every single project I've done, whether it is class project, personal projects, or internship, has been in wind energy modeling. And even my thesis recently was also in wind energy modeling, where I'm working with the Holland lab here that does great work in wind energy science as well. So yeah, that internship was instrumental because it introduced me to basically the field that I will spend the rest of my life working in.
Wow. And I'm told that you are a Rhodes Scholar and will be going over to the UK.
Yeah.
What's one global issue you would like to fix if you had all the money and resources in the world?
Yeah, well, I wish I had all the money and resources in the world, but I think I'm very passionate about sort of like access to hands-on education. As I said in the beginning, that MIT introduced me to this world of sort of like makerspace, where people are working on things, and it's not just about making things; it's also about getting empowered that you can construct something to completion. And I think this feeling sort of like extrapolate to other areas of life. So you learn how to make a robot, but then you also think that like, oh, I could go out there and solve issues and whatnot. So that, at least that's the impact that hands-on education has had on me. So ideally, with a lot of resources, I would want to sort of like democratize access to hands-on education through makerspaces. So just build makerspaces all around, especially in developing countries, where kids can come in and just make stuff and harvest sort of like the joy and the empowerment that comes from making things.
That's amazing. And did you pick up any local gestures or expressions while you were abroad?
Well, I mean, I spoke, I'm not gonna say I spoke Spanish, but like I spoke a decent level of Spanish when I got to Spain. But in Barcelona, they speak Catalan, so I often got confused because they would start speaking Spanish and then they would flip on Catalan, and I would have no idea. But simple expressions like good morning, like bon dia, and there's something they said when it's cool, I don't remember, but there's a word for like, oh, that's awesome type. But yeah, I don't have, I guess pan tomaquet, but that's like a dish. But I didn't pick up much like Catalan when I was in Spain. I couldn't, most of the time I couldn't hear what they were saying. But it did improve my Spanish a little bit, so just being in a Spanish-speaking environment. So yeah.
Great. And if you can encourage your younger self, what would you say to you?
I mean, I'm very happy that I did MIT the way I did it. So sort of like, showing love to communities at MIT, but also exploring, opportunities that were abroad, especially through the MISTI. I think those are the things that really helped me grow as a, socially conscious individual and somebody who can, who feels confident that they can engage with people from any walks of life. So I would say maybe I would tell my younger self to not worry too much, that like, the goals I had set to be like, traveling, meet people, show love to people, they were doubting at times because, you are in a space where people are extremely talented and you could always be spending your time learning some new skills and making yourself kind of like differentiating yourself like academically. And I think when you take away of that time, from that time to be in a lab or just hang out with someone else or like go travel, you could be doing an internship here, you could be making a lot of money. I think sometimes you doubt that like, oh, am I doing the right thing? So I'll probably just tell him to sort of like, to just relax and do the thing that you want to do, and ultimately kind of things work out fine.
Great. And MISTI in one emoji. Go.
I think the plater for sure. There is this emoji where there's the fork and the knife and the plate. I've had some of the best foods of my life in my entire time. In either South Africa, Denmark, or Spain. Especially Spain. I think Spain Spain gastronomy is something out of this world. So it was very good.
Oh, yes. And since you mentioned that, what was the best meal you had while abroad or in Spain?
I think there was a time I went. So I guess in Spain I was living with a host family, and I also worked with that school. They appointed me like an advisor in that school, and my advisor took me out once, and we sort of had like a bunch of platers that we were sharing. But we had ankoha, we had pantomaquette, which is very, very simple dish. These dishes are like one ingredient at most, or two ingredients at most, but they taste like so good. Pantomaquette, for example, is just tomato on bread. You put some olive oil on there. And we had the fricando, which is kind of like a meat dish, which was very good. And then there is this crema Catalunya, which is like, it's like creme brulee, but then the Barcelona version. So that meal, I think, in itself, like with like dishes that were very simple, but that tasted so good. It was a kind of like a cultural enlightenment for me. So yeah, definitely top 3 things I've ever eaten in my life for sure.
That sounds delicious. And thank you so much for answering my questions, and all the best.
Thank you.